What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel, and in today's video we're going to be talking about a couple things. One, keeping the oil where it belongs, keeping oil out of places it shouldn't be, and also that RTV issue. Alright, so like I just said, we're trying to keep the oil where it belongs, and that's where the pickup is. Subaru's, the boxer motor, it's flat, so when you're making hard corners, it goes into the heads, depending on where you're turning. The Tomei Baffle plate, which is like a multi-level plate, should help with this. There isn't a whole lot of data that I've seen with this plate, but at the making of this video, there's not a whole lot out right now. Maybe Killer B or someone will make a better plate. I do know making hard, long right-hand corners, I've seen, again, very little data of the oil pressure. After you, let's say for example, Sebring, turn 17, it's a long right-hander. Majority of the oil is gonna go to that driver's side head. And as you start to straighten out the car and bring on the power, oil pressure is low for probably a good 4 or 5 seconds. And I'm talking about maybe 40 PSI at close to red line. The data that I've seen, this plate maybe keeps the oil pressure low for like 1 to 2 seconds. It recovers much faster. So it tells me maybe, not all the oil is probably rushing out of it as fast. So that's that for this. And then we also have a prototype from Killer B. Going back and forth on Facebook, we jumped on a call and they are asking to test out their new prototype screen. I don't know the name of it yet. I don't even know if there is a name. But basically this is like a pre-screen before the pickup. Kind of like what you would put on an air filter. Get a little close-up of that. So this should just snap onto the pickup itself. And instead of the RTV going inside of the pickup, the goal or the problem we're trying to solve here is that one, it's not going into the pickup, and two, the RTV that will stick here or get sucked into, once maybe the car's not running and the oil starts to come down, hopefully the RTV comes with it. Now that's the goal. With some of the testing, I was told this thing will have to be 80% clogged to reduce any flow. Which if you had 80% of this clogged, you have another issue somewhere. So we're gonna be installing this today with their cool, I believe these are 3D printed, they're catch cans. So this is going to help keep oil out of places it shouldn't be, like your intake and the back of the manifold. There's 2 of these. We're gonna be installing both. Nick was telling me on a long road trip, he was able to, drain it and get like a tablespoon of oil from these. And to kind of do this whole job, I'm gonna be using some Tri-Bond to seal the oil pan. And I got a new oil pan from Subaru. This thing took about 8 weeks to get. It was a while. Do you need this to do the job? No. I've already pulled my pan off once, and as you start to hit this and beat it up and mar the surface, I just figured get a new one because this is my second time doing it. I don't have to clean this surface again to put the plate in, and I think it's like 140 bucks. So why not? And that's that. So let's get the car jacked up and get this installed. now that we have the car up in the air, I'm just gonna drain the oil and I'm gonna remove the header. I have an aftermarket header, it's a JDL unequal length. And reason for it, I just want more room under there to try to like get stuff in there to, you know, pry the pan off. I believe you can do this without it, but it's just a headache and I'm trying to lower my stress and anxiety while I'm working on this thing. That oil is really clean. It's only got like 2 track days on it. Now that the oil's draining, we're gonna let the little bit drip out. We're gonna disconnect both of the O2 sensors. There's a black plug and a gray plug. Disconnect those two and then we can unbolt the header. To remove the header, you're gonna take a 16 millimeter and a 17 millimeter wrench and we'll pull the header off. Now that the header's disconnected from the overpipe, we can unbolt the 6 bolts. There's 3 on each head. We'll knock those out. I believe it's a 14 millimeter. We're gonna disconnect that one there, and that third one there. So now that we got the header out, we're gonna loosen up the pin. There's a bunch of bolts going all around, and then we're going to take our time and stick a bunch of tiny screwdrivers, and hopefully we could, you know, peel this pan off without damaging anything. Also, really quick, I run E85, and it looks really clean in there. So I get the light. There we go. Pretty cool. So you're just gonna take a 10 millimeter and loosen all these up. All right, now that we got all the bolts pulled out, I'm going to try to pry this off. To do so, I got 3 small little screwdrivers. I'm just gonna try to tap in there and pull it off. So unfortunately, we recorded this scene in multiples in slow motion. So you're not gonna hear the audio, so I'm just gonna do a quick voiceover. I am getting ready to tap in those 3 screwdrivers. This second time around, it was very, very easy. Actually, a little too easy. But the pan was not leaking. And as you can see here, as I'm trying to stick a bigger screwdriver in here to spread the pan away, it kind of basically just fell off. As you can see, it was super easy. And there it is. I pulled the pan off and I wanted to try to get a better shot of inside of the pickup, and there wasn't a ton of RTV, which was good. This was my second time pulling the pan. I found a bunch more the first time I did this. The car had probably less than 2,000 miles on it, but because I track it so much, and I was a little worried hearing all the rumors about all the RTV, so I pulled the pan, took whatever I could out, and then now again for the second time to add the baffle. know if you can tell, there's a little bit, that little gray piece there. Other than that, it was really clean. So because I shot one of my scenes in slow-mo, I didn't get to show you what was in the pickup tube, but basically I pulled one piece of RTV out. That little piece there does not worry me one bit. Inside that pickup tube, there's 5 sides, so 1 on top and 4 on each side. That is gonna play no effect on the motor. All right, so before we seal up the pan, I'm going to mock up the baffle plate with the Killer Bee pre-screen to see if it fits. All right, so this is the screen, and by the looks of it, it doesn't look like it's gonna work. Nope. It's actually, yeah, it's hitting this bottom plate in here, which is causing the, I don't know, the teeth or whatever that clamps on to this outer ring is it won't work. All right, now that we have the baffle plate out, this will not work. It would be nice if the pickup was straight up and down because it would be a perfect fit. But because it's at an angle, it won't clamp onto that outer edge that we just saw in the pickup. So again, that's why we test. So now what we're gonna do, I'm gonna take some panel wipe. I'm gonna wipe down all the edges here, get all the oil here and on the pan, and then we're gonna use our 3 bond and start to seal it. I'm just gonna make sure I get any high and low spots just to try to make it even. All right, now that I feel I did this as best as I could, you don't want to go too thick because the thicker you go and you put this stuff on there, it's gonna squeeze and then ooze back out into the pan. So now we're going to take this, and I'm just gonna use the weight of this baffle to kind of let it sit and almost kind of cure in a way. And then as we put it onto the engine block, I'll slowly tighten it, come back in 15-20 minutes, tighten it a little bit more, allowing this to kind of get hard before it just oozes out. Same thing, some rubbing alcohol or use a panel wipe, make sure the surface is clean and dry. And we're gonna put some more of this here. And to be safe, I'm gonna go on the outside of the pan just to help with leakage. Okay, so I got some RTV on the block, top of the pan, in between the baffle and the pan here. I'm gonna start it with a couple screws, and I'm not gonna tighten it up, I'm just gonna kind of get it snug to where I can almost see it slightly compressed. We're gonna wait a little bit and then tighten it up again. So I believe I'm gonna insert the back of the pan facing the rear of the car up first and then bring it all the way in, I hope. Just like that. light just died. So as you just saw, I lost my light, so we stopped recording. But basically, rear end of the pan goes in first, and then work it in a star pattern, all right? Just don't go around it. And then I went till I started to feel some resistance, went to the next one, went to the next one. And I did that 2 or 3 times. I'll go back under there probably another 20, 30 minutes and star pattern, just another turn or 2 around each. And then that's it. I'm gonna let it dry overnight. Tomorrow we'll put oil in it and we'll start it up, make sure there's no leaks. All right, so I believe the 3 bond, the RTV, is dry because I can't separate it from the rag. It's not sticky to the touch, so I'm gonna tighten it up one more time and we're gonna install the header now. I'm still gonna wait till tomorrow morning to put fluids in it and then start the car, but header, catch cans, oil in the morning. All right, header is in. We just gotta finish bolting it. All right, we're just gonna snug down the pan. Okay, day 2 of the install. We're gonna be adding some oil. But I wanted to talk really quick about oil. I'm not an oil expert, I'm just telling you what I use in my car. And if you don't know where to start, open up your manual. I've reached out to people like Killer B because they do a lot of testing. They have a lot of data, they've seen it. What do you recommend? I track the car, I do this and I do that. And then they will tell you. And then you can ask someone else, like a race team or this guy who's been doing it for years, and will tell you something different. And you're kind of like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. Open up your owner's manual, start there. It's 0-20, but mainly for kind of the colder climates and for fuel economy. I don't care about fuel economy. All I do is road race this car. So I run a little bit thicker oil. Plus I'm in Florida, it doesn't get cold. 530 is what I run. I run a good synthetic. I don't think that's gonna hurt the car. We do this stuff to improve the car, right? That's kind of what I'm doing. I'm modifying it in my head to the best of the ability with the knowledge that I know today. So let's take a better look really quick. Go to, I believe it's page 383. All right, so it says, first of all, how much oil do we run in our car? 5.1, 5.3 with the filter. But I have an aftermarket oil cooler, so I run 6 quarts, and it's full all the time. It says right here, the best choice for good fuel economy and good starting in cold weather. I'm not in cold weather. I don't care about fuel economy. I'm on ethanol. So it says right here, an oil with a higher velocity, one with a higher value, may be better suited for vehicles and operations at high speed or under extreme load conditions. Road racing, 20 to 30 minutes on the throttle. So that's, oh, lost focus here. That's what I run. It's my car, I'm gonna do whatever I want. Same thing with you. Run a good oil, make sure it's full, drain it, analyze it, send it out, and see what the data says. It's that simple. Or you could just, listen to Phelps Garage and just do whatever. So I'm gonna show you firsthand of what I use. There you go. So either 0-20, which I was using this in the beginning, and then I switched to, oh no, that's not it. Where is it? Oh, down here. 530. So these are all my fluids. This is what I run on my car. Gear oil, trans oil, and again, I'm testing this for my own knowledge, right? We got a bunch of other oil back there, still some 020. But enough about that. Let's get some oil in the motor. I'm gonna put some 020 because I have a ton of it, and you know, this is basically testing to make sure it's not leaking. Because if you remember, we have the 3 bond between the pan and the plate, and from the plate to the engine block. So there's just more opportunity for a leak. If it's gonna leak, I'm not gonna use a bunch of AMS oil just to pour it on the ground, pull the pan back off. I'd rather use a bunch of my 020 that I have sitting. So we're gonna use that. All right, so this is basically 2 liters, which is just over 2 quarts. So we're gonna take one last look just to make sure that just pouring the oil in here doesn't leak. One thing that's really cool, you see their logo there. I already swapped out my Grady magnet plug and it looks good. All right, moment of truth. So what I'm gonna do, I'm going to floor the gas and push in the clutch at the same time, and it should not start the motor. It should just cycle through just to, you know, make sure oil goes where it needs to be. Both are in. I'm gonna do that one more time. All right. I can smell everything's burning off the header, but good oil pressure, the temps won't show up yet. So we just shut it off. The owner's manual says to let it run, shut it off, let it sit for 5 minutes, and then check the oil. So that's what we're gonna do. The oil level is perfect. I'm just gonna let it run longer and longer and longer to, again, double check for the leaks, get the oil temps higher, give it some more revs, and then we're gonna install catch cans next. To get the temps up really any higher with the oil cooler and the factory fan, now that it's tuned, it's on, and the temps just won't go really any higher than 180. But it's good. Man, the response with the tune is great. So, let's talk about catch cans. Why do we need them? The main thing is to keep oil out of the intake system because we don't want to burn that. It doesn't help with the octane rating, especially E85. I don't know if it's going to help me. Probably not. So what's really neat and why I personally like the Killer Bee setup is that one is 3D printed, which is cool, but it has that OEM look, that kind of black rough texture. There's no baffling in here, which is cool because it won't restrict any flow. It's more of a vortex system, and you can just open it up, drain it. Let's get it installed. Alright, so we're going to take a better look. So that's the one for the back of the manifold, and as you can tell, it looks, you know, the same. This one with the slight turn down is actually going to fit right in here, and I'm hoping it clears my oil pressure sensor. So super easy install. We'll just pull this clamp, slide this one over, put that hose to the inlet, and it should sit something like that. Then on the back side, probably pull that engine cover off there, but we're gonna follow this hose here, and it goes to the back of the manifold. So let's go ahead and put this first one on. I might have to cut this hose, which is not a big deal. Just want to make sure that I clear the sensor here and the wires. Yeah, we're definitely gonna have to shorten that up, and it's right behind it. So I don't know if I want it right behind it because it's in between the throttle body, the harness, and the oil pressure sensor. So I might shorten it to fit kind of in here versus in there, because I don't want this to rattle around or anything, which it probably won't move a whole lot, but okay, so after, you know, looking at it a little bit more, it sits kind of right here. I know it's hard to see. Let me get my light. And sitting in there with my sensor being there and kind of the throttle body harness, I don't want this to kind of rattle around and, like, with my luck, like, you know, take out one of those little wires. So I'm just going to cut this a little bit, stick it out further this way so the catch can could sit more in here. So we're gonna trim about, I'm just gonna cut right where that lip is. Shouldn't be an issue because there's a hose clamp there. Like that. And I'm gonna take a little bit more off of this one. Like that. Here's a close-up. So it just sits in between the compressor and there. All the clearance I need back there. Make sure that it's closed. You don't want to be sucking in air through the bottom of this. Let's get to the back side. Just gonna be this guy here. All right, there's that. I believe this should just slide on. Let me make sure it's locked. Very snug. Make sure it's closed. It is. That goes on there. I believe we're done. So there you go. Catch can 1, catch can 2, the engine cover back on, and we are all good to go. Really quick, I never made a video of this, but since we're here and we're talking about, you know, this catch can, I bypassed the coolant that goes through the throttle body, kind of keep it cooler. That's it. No oil leaking. So we're going to put it on the ground, get the tools out, and take it for a drive.